aesthetic or a vibe and just going all out with it.
Yeah, I always say the reason why everyone, you know what, I never want anyone to leave one of our company's weddings and be like, I've been to that wedding before. We want it to be fun. We want it to flow and be like a good time, but also look like you've never seen. And I think the thing that holds people back is just fear. Like when it's like a lot of people in this industry, you know, they're not creatives for their job. So they cannot envision it. Like I will sometimes take a couple into their venue space and it's like empty and I'm like describing what we're going to do and they absolutely cannot imagine it. And I'm like, oh my God.
So what do you do, a 3D render?
Yeah. But it's also kind of depressing how everybody's imagination from kids to now was just absolutely destroyed by life.
It's hard to envision.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me personally, I can, if someone describes something to me, I can visualize it in my mind. My fiance is like the opposite.
Yeah.
He's like, he's got to line it up to look at it. And we just have a completely different way of communicating. And it's so annoying.
Men and women.
Yeah, it's so annoying. She's like, come outside and look at it. And I'm like, I don't need to come outside and look at it. I can envision it in my mind. But you're totally right. I feel like a lot of people's creativity and imagination is stifled. And therefore, they look for references, whether it's on Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok, etc., to drive all of their creative decisions. Yeah. Where most of the creatives in the industry that I speak to, they never pull inspiration from other weddings. They pull it from outside the industry, whether it's fashion, interior design, architecture, traveling. And that's where they grab those interesting design ideas. I mean, and this is the problem because we curate this mood board for every couple and we make their wedding, like we try to give them visuals and sometimes we'll pull a photo of florals and I'll be like, look, this is the shape, but maybe not the color palette. And they're just like, we'll find one with this. And it's like, it doesn't exist. Yes. And that's the point.
And they're like so dedicated to the mood board where it needs to be exactly what's in my brain. And I'm like, the reason why your wedding is going to be epic is because it doesn't exist. And they just cannot sometimes deal with it. So sometimes I'm having to have interventions. Like, we're done with the mood board now. Walk away. I've just had to tell people to walk away from Instagram and Google. I'm like, put the phone down. Yeah. Just go to bed, honey. At some point. Because then there's always, but I have one more idea. But I have one more idea. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. Sometimes people get like manic. Like sometimes I'll check my inbox on a Monday and it's like very apparent we had a manic breakdown over the weekend. I actually think it's like endearing. Because I'm like, they're so excited. But sometimes I'm like, you have to walk away from the phone, please. Exit Instagram, log out. Just take a break. Take a break. Yeah, it gets a little intense. And then they'll be saying like, oh, well, this, Alex Cooper did this and this. And it's like, okay, but you're having like a ballroom wedding. And she had hers outdoors in Mexico. So like read the vibe, you know what I mean? So yeah, the venue dictates so much. And I think you made an interesting point earlier in that if you are going to hire a planner or a designer to help drive the creative vision of your event, don't book the venue until you bring on that creative because they're going to see something, they're going to know something, they're going to have a vision of how things can unfold or what potential problems could be. Yeah. Just from looking at a space. 100%. And we have the sweetest couple in 2025. They booked us and the bride was like, I really love this one space. I was like, cool, we're going to put in the mix and I'm going to show you a bunch of other ones. And they ended up still booking the one she was originally in love with, but with a better mindset of how we were going to do it and things like that. So, it doesn't mean I'm going to come in and like totally change your mind. And I still love that venue, by the way. But it means now you have a very good understanding of like how your budget's going to break out, how we're going to dress it up, all that good stuff. It's the same thing as if you're renting an apartment or buying a house, right? Like you don't want to, if you see one that you like, you don't want to like buy it or sign the lease right away. You got to look at what else is out there 100%. Just to get a sense of like, oh, okay, price point. Am I getting good value? And sometimes it helps you appreciate even further, like the parts of the venue or the space. Right. Yeah. And it helps you add that context. Yeah. And sometimes I find, what's so weird? I'm seeing a lot of trends in 2025 that are a little alarming. Honestly. Yeah. Please tell me. So there's like a definite consensus of all the vendors, at least in the tri-state, where we're a little alarmed at 2025. Yeah. Tell me everything. Okay. I'm going to just say it right here. You heard it first. TikTok is incorrect about everything people are spewing. I am seeing so much misinformation on that app and it is going to ruin people's weddings. It's like I'm seeing like a bride that got married once be like, don't do this, don't need a planner, don't need this. You can DIY that. I'm like, anyone
They're just
who's
doing it for the views.
Yeah. Anyone who's listening to these people, walk away from TikTok. And I think a lot of, millennials and Gen Zs are the ones that are, getting married and they're on there and they're hearing this stuff. And then once you see one video and you linger on it too long, it's your whole feed. So it's just so much misinformation where I'm seeing like budget breakdowns and I'm like, what is this budget breakdown from this girl in Ohio that planned her wedding in Ohio and like brides in New York are thinking this is accurate? Like it's alarming. And also there's a very odd thing happening in the tri-state right now where people are thinking like it's too early.
Too early for what?
It's like people in 2025 are thinking it's too early to like lock in venues and stuff, which is
a problem.
So crazy because it's never been like that. I'm getting like inquiries for like 2026. Sometimes I'm like, honey, you're it's a little early, but 2025, I'm like, you need to hurry up.
Yeah.
You need to hurry up and hire your planner and get your venue. Like, what are you waiting for?
So waiting too long, thinking you have enough time because they heard on TikTok.
100%.
Yeah. You don't need to book your venue.
Yeah. And that like you should price shop all your vendors, which is also not what you do. If you were getting, again, with the plastic surgery, but it's a good reference. If you were getting your nose done, are you going to go to the cheapest person? Or are you going to go to the person who's going to make you look the nicest and maybe save because it is a very important thing on your face everyone will see. I'm so like people are just like trying to haggle a little bit more. And I'm like, it's not the vibe. We will negotiate prices with vendors when it is something we can do. But for the most part, people's prices are their prices. Like,
It's so interesting. So I want to double click into budget breakdowns because on Loverly, we get submitted. We basically solicit to our audience, which caveat, 700,000 plus followers all over the country. In fact, a lot all over the world, but let's just say US based. And we say, hey, submit your real bridal shower budget, your real wedding budget, your real bachelorette party weekend budget, right? And we break it down.
Yeah.
And we say, this is a real bride. This was what she actually spent. And we put, this is one bride, right? This is an actual budget. And when I say in the comments, people lose their minds. But it's mostly vendors that lose their minds.
Yeah.
Because like, this is misinformation, which we caveat, this is one person's budget and look at the location and everything is specific. I think the point is, for me at least, is that like wherever you are, you can do a wedding at any budget.
You can.
But it's the amount of people that you have. So you might only have 40 guests versus 200 guests, right? And the one request or the call out I see is vendors being like, show me the photos, show me the receipts.
Oh my God, I want to see them though. Now that, oh my God, that's so funny.
Yeah, they get really angry about it. And look, we're not trying to spread misinformation. We're just trying to show them off. And now we are going to show the wedding photos because they're actually pretty. And it shows, hey, this person figured it out.
Yeah.
But it also makes me think that sometimes people don't read the caption before they comment because we'll have like an asterisk like miscellaneous includes X, Y, and Z. And they're like,
oh my God, people don't read anything.
No.
People
get
do
mad.
not read anything and they just get really mad. I had this happen with a couple who not only I told this, but I was like, when you print your invitations, it takes like weeks for them to get printed. Okay, whatever. They just like blew me off. It literally says it on all of the proofs for the stationery company. It takes 4 to 6 weeks. They are absolutely infuriated that it takes so long. And I'm like, it was everywhere.
Yeah.
But like, the budget breakdown thing is funny because I always take it with a grain of salt. Like I don't get angry when I see it, but sometimes I get like so frustrated when they name an area and say, this is how your budget should break out. Like
it's never how it should break out.
It's crazy.
It's, hey, this is an example of what has happened. But I 100% hear you on there being this phenomenon because TikTok rewards people who create sensational content, whether or not it's real or false, right? The content you're putting out, if it gets the views, it triggers the algorithm, blah, blah, blah. And it spurs a number of things. However, there are some content creators who are actual planners, photographers who are giving real advice. I find that to be helpful, but I totally hear you on content creators who one time and are planning their wedding and maybe are now turning themselves into a wedding pro because they've done this one event one time.
I've seen that so much. That's really the majority of things I see. But I've also seen vendors giving out misinformation.
Okay, like what?
Oh my God. I literally saw this yesterday and I was like, I'm not one of those people that's going to be in the comments. Like, I'm going to see it. I'm going to be like, that is so weird. And then I'm going to move on with my life. But I saw a planner pop up in my, For You page. And it was a budget breakdown. And I was like, oh, and it actually had realistic numbers for venue. And she did a sliding scale, which is like what everybody should be doing for a budget if you're going to do the one size fits all method of budget breakdown. She broke out every single vendor except a planner. I was like, and she's a planner.
Oh, she didn't put her price in there.
I was like, what? Like, how are you going to be like, this is how you should break out your budget and leave out one of the biggest pieces?
Well, maybe she didn't want to reveal her pricing.
She could have done a percentage or something. I mean, it was just she was doing scales. So she could have done like a low scale and a high scale. It didn't have to be specific for her. But I was like, this is the problem. I have seen so many budget breakdowns that don't include a planner. And I'm like, this is where people think, if you were making a movie, would you be like, oh, we don't need a director? Okay, like, let me see that movie come to life. I mean, there's been 2 occasions in my entire career where somebody hired us for day of coordination, which is the game day situation. And I was like actually impressed. There was no issues 2 times.
Out of how many?
Girl, when I tell you, I have come in and I have to clean up messes in that package to the point where I actually am very picky about who we take on for that one, because sometimes I'm telling people like, the venue didn't tell you that you have to pay for their in-house AV. And they're like, what? And then we have to organize that. And it's like now $10,000. It's just crazy.
Oh, wow.
It's crazy the things we've cleaned up, but then people get angry at us. Like, we came into the equation. Now we have to spend all this money. And it's like, we're fixing glaring mistakes. You wouldn't have had microphones the day of your wedding.
Which would be a problem.
Or speakers for your DJ. Like, so yeah, there's a lot that we have cleaned up. So that's why when people are like, oh, I can plan it myself. I'm like, honey, you have no idea what you're doing. And who's going to like push you down the aisle and like deal with your really stressed out and nervous bridal party? Because honestly, let me tell you, I have never had a wedding ceremony where the bridal party wasn't so nervous and freaking out about like, how fast do I, how like just overthinking everything.